I would like to speak about the use of science in research and research in the future. And really, one doesn't have to tell students very much about the progress in science. And I would relate what I'm saying there to the electronics. Now, electronic changes in the last number of years have been, I think you'd have to say, mind-boggling. Certainly mind-boggling to a person of my generation. And just when we think we can keep up with computers and handheld devices, they change them and make them better and smaller and faster. So the use of science is so obvious in the electronic business. Now, you can also use science in many other ways. And in the petroleum area, we were talking about research on how to produce oil more cheaply and safely and in different environments. There's still a lot to be done. Now, I have been involved quite closely in forming some research institutes. One in Newfoundland, the Center for Cold Oceans Resource Engineering. We started this 35 years ago, and my role was to act as a manager of it temporarily until we got all the staff in place, and to help raise the money for it. In this case, the Devonian Foundation of Calgary saw the need and gave the Institute startup money at the Memorial University of Newfoundland. And it celebrated its 35th year this year, and it has done amazingly progressive work in drilling offshore and producing offshore oil in ice-infested waters, in iceberg-infested waters. So that's a good example of what can be done. And another institute I was involved in founding was at the University of Alberta, the Center for Frontier Engineering Research, which was started about the same time, and it now is a part of the Alberta Research Council, just south of Edmonton. And its work was determining the engineering requirements of drilling in the far north. So you'll notice that the two areas of engineering research that I've been involved in are both in cold climates in northern Canada and on the east coast. Drilling offshore in Iceberg Alley, as they call it, had never been done. And oil companies had gone out and done their work on the geophysics and geology and concluded that there's some good oil fields out there. But how are you going to drill them? The iceberg's coming after you. Well, it was years ago that Dr. Angus Bruneau, the Dean of Engineering in Memorial, came to Calgary to talk to the people with properties off the East Coast and proposed this idea of doing some research to find out how to do it. And Angus approached me to work with him in developing a center of excellence, which we did. And as I mentioned, the Devonian Foundation saw this as a unique need for Canada, and that was the real answer to your question of whether why these institutes that I was involved with were created. And just parenthetically, we also started one in veterinary medicine, which doesn't have anything to do with the far north, but it does have to do with our climate. I have an ability to organize research institutes to do what needs to be done. Now, to amplify that, what needs to be done? Research takes place around the world, everywhere. And Canada's a small place in that game. And we don't have an awful lot of experience at research. But what we have is an ability to collaborate with each other. The Canadian way, you could almost call it. And rather than having industry being in opposition to government as a controller and the public standing by not knowing what's going on, in Canada we have the collaborative effort in research institutes of the ones I spoke of. But we can't depend on the world to do our, let me put it this way, we can't depend on the world to do the research to solve our problems, our unique problems. Now, let's take veterinary medicine. In veterinary medicine, the biggest problem we have in this country was calf scar. In other words, the newborn babies, calves, were dying from diarrhea because their farms were muddy and the snow came and went, and it was a great killer of young cattle. Well, we saw that as a need that nobody else is going to solve for us. Now, maybe the Russians are working at it, but they don't share, at that time at least, didn't share. So we decided that one of the priorities for Canada would be to solve that problem. And we formed an institute at the University of Saskatchewan, and with the help of the Devonian again, the institute is now 35 years old and producing great vaccines, and is a world leader, just as the one in Newfoundland is and the one in Edmonton. They're all doing exactly what we hoped they would do, in fact, well beyond our expectations. And it was just the seed money and the management technique that got them going. And we just turned our back and went on and did something else.